Welcome to the Flight Club Podcast, a woman's guide to leaning out. We give you a behind-the-scenes look at business launch and growth through the stories of successful female entrepreneurs. Here's your host, Felina Hansen, founder and CEO of Hera Hub.
Hello and welcome. I am excited to share my conversation with Katie Adams Farrell. Katie is an entrepreneurial fundraising and nonprofit industry expert. She specializes in strategic planning, fund development, and database management. She co-founded her company, Kerredyn Collaborative, with a mission to amplify social impact through strategic planning, innovative project design, marketing, and fundraising. Kerredyn provides a range of services to clients locally and globally, from web development to grant writing. And Katie is passionate about growing and empowering a community of women entrepreneurs. She speaks regularly about philanthropy as good business, the intersection of family and business for women, and the business environment for women entrepreneurs. And Katie and I have a bit in common because we are both NABO sisters, National Association of Women Business Owners. And I'm kind of following in her footsteps, just taking on the president position here in San Diego. And she has been president of NABO OC since July 2017. So welcome to the show today, Katie.
Thanks, Felina. So happy to be here.
Fantastic. Well, let's start off with, I know you are a SoCal girl, and you went to Cal State Long Beach. You majored in fine arts, musical performance, violin, and viola. How did you come to be an amazing musician?
I guess that's, we're going to start way at the beginning, aren't we?
Way back, girl. We go way back.
We go way back. Well, when I was 7.
Perfect.
No, I won't launch that far in. But when I was a kid, I was super lucky to grow up in a household where my parents kind of afforded me all of the opportunities I could possibly want. And one of those was figure skating. And I was incredibly competitive as a figure skater. And so when that ended for me, which thank goodness it did, like you get to a place in figure skating where you either have to choose to be homeschooled and go, or like go to school and leave kind of the art of figure skating. And so my family made the decision for my sister and I that we should go on our merry way. And so something had to fill that void, and music was it. And honestly, it's, my calling. I think a musician just has a certain way of interacting with the world, and it's part of my lens and my view.
That's fantastic. Love it. Are you still active? Do you still play often?
I play as I can. I have 3 kiddos, and they're 10, 8, and 6. Okay. So between the business and the 3 kids, there's not all that much time for me to kind of pursue my more creative avenue of expression. And they, like when I play, they want to participate in it. So sometimes that's great, and sometimes that's really annoying. So I do it as much as I can. I wish I made a little bit more time, and that's something that's kind of, a goal for me.
Perfect. And you started your career and still are in this world of fundraising. Take us along your career path.
Yeah. So when you graduate from college with a degree in music, there aren't all that many options unless you want to be a performing musician, which I decided pretty early on I didn't. It's not quite the lifestyle that I would want for myself. I luckily had the privilege of being asked to do an internship at the Long Beach Symphony Orchestra. I, played with them a few times and was familiar with the leadership. So they asked me if I wanted to do an internship. It ended up being in development, which is fundraising, nonprofit language for fundraising. And that was that. I graduated college and utilized those connections I had made during the years of my internship to get a job in fundraising.
Fantastic. And it looks like you stayed, in the world of arts and museums there for a bit. Well, actually for several years, quite a few years there. So talk about what that
All the
path looks
years.
like. All the years, absolutely.
All the years. It's still an aspect of the business today, definitely arts and culture, and cultural organizations. I love being in a learning environment. And so working at the Natural History Museum in Los Angeles was amazing. It was one of my all-time favorite periods of my life. I also had 2 children while I was working there. So it, is a fundamentally kind of like part of my life that I remember fondly. But just being surrounded by so much learning, and so much freedom to express yourself. And I think that arts and culture are essential to vibrant communities, essential to producing well-rounded children that are going to be great, 21st century workforce employees and business owners. So I just feel that it's one of my callings as a creative person, but then also, critical to cultural sharing and empathy and expression and self-discovery and all of those things that kind of make us love each other.
Absolutely. Do you see, I'm going to ask kind of like a bigger picture question here. Do you
Sure.
see that love and that opportunity for education still continuing in our school system today in the way that you experienced it?
So I actually think that things are getting better. And of course, that all depends on what part of the world, and
where you
certainly what part
live.
of the United States that you live in, right? So, there's still school districts in affluent neighborhoods have lots of opportunity for that type of self-exploration, whereas schools in districts, like I work with a lot of schools in Los Angeles Unified School District that are in under-resourced neighborhoods, and some of these kids have never even seen the beach. They don't know what live theater is. And so it's a kind of a different level. And so I think we have a lot of work to do in terms of equity. But I think that the research is there. There has been so much research to show that arts and culture, and specifically arts and culture that allow exploration of identity and seeing things from other people's viewpoints and learning how to express yourself. I think the research is there to demonstrate how important that is to being successful later on in life. And so our education system isn't necessarily set up to support that kind of nebulous, stuff. It's about taking tests, but I think it's getting there. And I think our educators are committed to producing the best possible adults that they can. And so they're doing a lot of this exploration on their own. And I just am so privileged to be a part of it and to support it.
That's fantastic. Katie, I want to get to the point where we talk about your business and the launch of your business. You were director of development at the Aquarium of the Pacific up until July 2015, and it looks like that was the time you leapt out onto your own, and now have brought that together in Kerredyn, your current business. So let's pause on that and talk about what was that decision to leave. You'd had these great roles in these really important organizations. What was the catalyst, pun intended, to leap onto your own?
So honestly, it was straight up out of necessity, and I'm not going to glorify it in any way, shape, or form. I loved being at the aquarium. I was working there at a time when they have just recently expanded a new wing. And so part of my role was helping to support the fundraising efforts to build that new wing. And what the aquarium does is so important. What I found is that I had 3 kids, ages 5, 3, and 1, and was a leader in the organization. And it was basically an impossibility for me in that I was so sleep deprived and so stressed out. And I felt that I wasn't giving enough of myself to my family or to my workplace. And, there are a lot of things about the workplace that are still pretty traditional, and that, I was expected to be there from 8:30 until 6 p.m. And that's really hard to do when you have multiple drop-offs and a kid could get sick at any minute. And, it was just a really difficult time for me. And so I made the decision to kind of start on my own because I needed more flexibility in my life. And so I thought, which I think a lot of women, I've talked to so many people in NABO who have also had like a similar experience, right? I thought that I would start my own thing and I would be a consultant, just like me, myself, and I, Katie Adams Farrell. I know some people. I'm good at what I do. I'm going to be a consultant and I'm going to build my own hours, and then I can do whatever I need to do with my family and also work and also make money. And I think that works for some people, but that still didn't work because I wasn't making enough money. And honestly, it's really so hard then to balance home and work when they're in the same place. It's actually harder. So I realized that doing the whole solopreneur thing, that also didn't work for me. And so joined forces with my business partner, who is an amazing web developer and digital marketing expert. Her name is Faye Reed, and she's kind of WordPress famous, so you may have heard of her. But we decided to kind of put our businesses together and scale, because that's the way to kind of get the lifestyle that we want. And also the basis of our business, which has been kind of the basis of my entire career, is to amplify social impact. And we're really focused on amplifying causes that are championed by or support marginalized communities. And so putting both of our talents together with that social justice mission has been extremely rewarding, as well as a good business move.
Love it. Love it. Love it. I want to pause because you spent a bit of time as an adjunct professor at the Stanford Institute of Philanthropy. Excuse me. I can say that word. Talk a little bit about what that experience was like and how did that come about?
So I still teach with Stanford. Awesome. So, that was, my husband is in wealth management. He's a financial planner. And so when he first started his practice, we were having a lot of conversations about the business of sales, right? And how do you, and he's not a sales-oriented person, how do you communicate to these people about what you do in a way that really resonates with them and doesn't feel yucky and cheap, but also, gets the job done? How do you move people through the sales pipeline? And so a lot of what he was learning, we were talking about, and I was like, well, why don't we apply this to the nonprofit fundraising landscape? It's a system, it's a science. And of course, we're going to use our own language, and people make decisions for the same reasons, whether that's a decision about, what they're buying or what they're investing in or what they're donating to. It's really based on their feelings and their relationships. And so why couldn't we use a system like this? And lo and behold, I started teaching it, and somebody came up to me and said, hey, we have this curriculum that is what you're teaching right now. So I kind of joined forces with Stanford. I love being a part of Stanford. They have now expanded. When I joined 4 years ago, I suppose that was now, it was just based in La Jolla, so San Diego area, California. And now they have affiliate locations all across the U.S. I've had the privilege of talking in several different cities on behalf of Stanford Institute of Philanthropy. And, we teach entrepreneurial fundraising, and it's exciting.
That's fantastic. I was unaware that this was a thing. So this is really, really interesting. You're always teaching in person, or are you doing anything online?
Both. I do webinars and teach in person. And then I talk at conferences quite a bit too.
Great. Well, let's dive into your business, your current business. Talk a little bit about the business itself, types of clients that you're working with. Obviously, you have this amazing partner that is a digital master. So how do you work together, and who do you serve?
We were very blessed to find each other we basically, Say and I share a brain. We have different feelings about things, and we may operate in different ways sometimes. We have different experiences, but we are almost always on the same page, which is really amazing. I think, few people are lucky to be able to find that kind of a person in their life where it's just like, she knows what I'm thinking and I don't ever have to explain myself because she gets it, and I can just say what I'm feeling and she's not going to take offense to it. It's really an amazing relationship. And so it made a lot of sense for us to put our businesses together and to move forward together. And we found each other because we were both working in like the political landscape. And so we were working on the Electoral College petition, which was up until recently the largest petition in history, which is pretty exciting, like in the world in history, which was really fun. Kind of 2-month thing that we were engaged in. And so I feel like once you go through an experience like that, you're partners for life. So it was an easy decision for us to then move forward. But we took a year to make sure that we did it right. And, like I said before, it's just allowed us to serve clients in a much more encompassing way. And what Say and I believe, and what Kerredyn believes, obviously we believe in collaboration. It happens to be in the name of our business. And so we work with our clients to understand their vision and mission. And sometimes that's helping them understand their vision and mission as well. Because regardless of what you're doing in your organization, whether you're marketing or fundraising or building programs, the best of all of those things are going to be derived from and directly serve an organization's mission and vision. And you would be surprised how easy it is to kind of get like away from that. I think we do it in our businesses sometimes too. We get a little bit like, ooh, shiny, big client contract potential. I'm going to go that way, but it's not really in line with your wheelhouse, like what you want your impact to be. So that's kind of where we start. And so we do a lot of strategic planning with organizations, and we work with nonprofit and some for-profit organizations. The through line is that what we do is we amplify social impact. And so we choose organizations to work with that also underscore our values, or that our work can underscore their values. And so we're never in the position of feeling like we are working with an organization that isn't kind of coming from a place of heart and passion for us. And that's been a really freeing thing, because I get to say no to clients that don't really make me feel good, So, that is just basically how we make the decisions in our business, and then has been from the start, is what do we want the impact to be, and how can we leverage that?
Wonderful. And it looks like you've done work for organizations I see on here, like the Los Angeles Small Business Development Corporation, Regional Network. How does that tie into, and I want to take that into the work that you've been doing at NABO. How did that come about in taking on the president position? Maybe it was a bit like my experience, which was, please do this, please do this, please do this.
I mean, I raised my hand.
Okay, you did. Okay. You raise it like a little bit, and they're like, yes, you're in.
Basically. No, I mean, I think I was pretty vocal in my confidence, but basically I didn't feel necessarily like I was 100% qualified. Some of that too is just my woman programming, maybe, to take on the presidency. But ultimately, I don't really know. I'm like one of the biggest advocates for women that I know. So it's like my life's work, and so I can, no matter what, I have the passion and the intention and the drive, and I have a wonderful, supportive board of directors to kind of help me move things in the right direction, which I think we've been doing a lot of good work. But, how does that all tie in together? And then, I mean, it really stems back to my personal story, which is that I started a business because I didn't feel like I had any options. And I know that is a lot of women, the same story for a lot of women. And maybe theirs doesn't specifically relate to having children, but maybe it's caring for an elderly parent, or, getting aged out of the workforce or whatever it might be. There's a lot of reasons that women kind of choose to start businesses that really it doesn't really feel like a decision at all.
Yeah.
And to lean into that and empower us to all think of ourselves as bigger, and bolder and more capable of doing what our heart tells us we want to do, and to not think small about ourselves or to be kind of tied down to these duties that we're responsible for as women, that I'm not here to say we can do it all, because we can't do it all. I mean, I try to do it all and then I get myself sick, and that's the reality, but just that we can think bigger than our circumstances may want us to. And so really it's just this working with the LAFCDC, and Shay was an advisor with the LAFCDC for a bunch of years. And so that was kind of a natural partnership for us. But specifically what that looks like is we have the opportunity we started in Los Angeles, but to teach small business owners and really focused on communities of color how to build websites. So how to help small business owners, especially these solopreneurs that are just getting started, how to build business websites. And we've grown that program. We've taken it now, it's primarily in webinar form, but we do webinars across the US. And we're kind of working on supporting as many communities as we can, especially rural communities, because they have way fewer websites. And so it's just really about empowering and amplifying people who may not have as much opportunity as we do.
That's great. And are those WordPress websites, is that the platform you're teaching on?
Yes, we teach on WordPress.
Perfect. Awesome. And so what has it been like turning back to NAWBO? What has this 2.5 or so year adventure been with NAWBO? What have been a couple of the things that perhaps you've changed or redirected or innovated for the organization since you've been president?
I think that my biggest contribution to NAWBO, and I have to say that probably the most exciting thing for me to be a part of was SB 826. And that's the Women on Boards legislation in California. It's extremely progressive legislation that mandates women's participation on corporate boards of publicly traded companies that are headquartered in California. And so being a part of that effort with NAWBO California and with our local chapters was really wonderful and exciting. And we were able to get something through that nobody thought we had the capacity of getting passed. And now it's setting the stage for legislation across the U.S., which is awesome. Yeah. But I think what my biggest contribution to NAWBO has been is really this idea that we can be ourselves, we can be real, we can be vulnerable, we can fail, and still have all of what we need to move forward. We don't have to be perfect. We don't have to kind of perpetuate this image. And I live in Orange County, right? It's perfect in Orange County. Let's be real. Yeah. But we don't have to. And NAWBO is this safe space where we can come and just say, hey, I'm struggling. I got this client. They're kind of a jerk. I don't really know what to do. Or, hey, I messed up on this sale and I'm worried about income. Or, hey, I have to pick my kids up and I can't go to this client meeting and I'm freaking out. How do you even balance this? And so, we also celebrate our successes, of course, but people are more inclined to celebrate the successes than look kind of graciously at the things that aren't successes. So this idea about redefining failure and being vulnerable and also being willing to have really difficult conversations in Orange County. NAWBO obviously is a bipartisan organization, and it's extremely important to our organization from a national standpoint, as well as our chapter in Orange County. We are an interesting kind of place in terms of politics lately, right? A big transition kind of in our political leanings. And so it it's been weird in that people don't want to have conversations. It's scary because like, oh man, what if you feel completely different than I do about, President Trump? And what if I offend you by saying how I feel? And so what we've done is we've opened up the space. We said, hey, listen, like take the personalities out of it. It's not about the personalities. We're here to talk about issues that we face as women business owners and how legislatively we can take action or represent ourselves to, our legislators in order to make sure that we have opportunity and that our community is thriving. And so that requires having some difficult conversations. And this is a place to do that. We don't have to talk about personalities, but, let's talk about healthcare. Let's talk about how, and we just recently had our legislative breakfast a couple of weeks ago, and we invited local legislators of both parties to attend and had a diverse group. It was fantastic. And then we had a keynote with Congresswoman Katie Porter in the 45th District. And we talked about healthcare. We talked about how Medicare for all is real scary when you're talking about raising our taxes. We talked about these things, and we had an opportunity to say, like, listen, this is what we're worried about. We're not saying we're experts, but we need you to know how we feel here. And those are the kind of conversations that we can have, and that we can say, like, listen, you don't have to agree with me, but I bet you we can find common ground, because we have a ton of it. We have a lot more common ground than we have uncommon ground.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for sharing that. It is so important. And the things you spoke about are very much the reason I also finally said yes to a leadership position in NABO. I've been a member for about 10 years.
You did.
Oh, thank you. Like you, and, I'm sure like everybody listening, we don't want to say yes to things that we don't feel like we can really give, 100+% to. So that was a bit of my hesitation. I didn't want to say yes and not be able to give it my all. So, what I tell folks here in San Diego is, if you want to see change happen at the political level and you're not quite ready to run for office yourself, join NABO and be part of a unified voice at the state and federal level to affect change as it relates to female entrepreneurs. So I love it. Well, I want to switch back over to your business, Katie. Not that NABO isn't part of your business, but your core business, and talk about what's on the horizon. What are you most excited about looking forward?
I can't. Everything is so exciting. We're at this point right now where we kind of just came out of the weeds. We have been kind of head down, get this work done, all hands on deck. And we have this kind of magical hiring plan, and we have a plan to seriously scale our business over the next year or two. And so that's really, really exciting for me, because I think over the next couple of years, we're going to take our little business to a less little business. And it's pretty exciting, because we'll just have that much more opportunity to help the nonprofit innovators and risk takers and do-gooders to do more good.
I love it. Fantastic. Well, if our listeners want to get in touch with you, Katie, what is the best way for them to do that?
Our website has a contact form on it. And so if you go to Kerredyn.com, Kerredyn.com, and click on contact, you can get in touch with us that way.
Perfect. Sounds good. Thanks so much for your time today, Katie.
Thanks so much, Felina.
Thank you for joining this week's episode of Flight Club, sponsored by Hera Hub. We look forward to sharing more success stories with you soon.